Welcome to the SJ Child Show, where a little bit of knowledge can turn fear into understanding. Enjoy the show.
Introducing safe space staging for kids, creating smiles every step of the way. At Safe Space Staging for Kids, we believe that every child's journey to the dentist should be filled with comfort and confidence. Our mission: to turn dental visits into positive adventures. Imagine a world where dental chairs feel like cozy thrones and waiting rooms are transformed into magical kingdoms. That's the power of our dental staging. We're here to banish dental anxiety and create a safe, soothing environment where kids can be themselves. With vibrant colors, playful decor, and a touch of imagination, we're changing the way children experience dental care. Join us on this journey of smiles, giggles, and happy checkups. Because for us, every tooth deserves a little magic.
Hi, and welcome to the SJ Child Show. Today, I have a really wonderful, inspiring guest, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear stories and experiences and really join in. Please, after the show, if you have questions, you want to reach out, please feel free to do so always. Devin, it's so nice to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super stoked to be here.
I love that you and I have, some people that we have in common that are just amazing people, and really shows the specialness of the community that we are part of and how we have the ability to bring ourselves together in this community. And I don't know about you, but for me, it was always, I prefaced myself in a podcast long ago. He said, "What were you like as a 9-year-old?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I was like a unicorn. Outside of all the kids were regular horses. I was the unicorn. I was prancing around doing my own thing. They didn't get me. I didn't get them. I didn't understand why. I thought I looked the same. Looking down, I didn't see the horn.
You were just minding your own business, not really caring in the world."
And so it's interesting how that came to finally, surface. And now I understand a whole lot more of it. Tell us your story. Give us an introduction first, and then we'll just guide into that.
Oh, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on the show. My name is Devin Morrissey. I'm an autism advocate, blogger. I am a public speaker. And some of you might recognize me from a little Netflix show called Love on the Spectrum. Season 1, I was Danny's friend in the bar episode in the bar. 1. I was also the one on the trailer that said, "Cheers to us autistic people going through leaps and bounds, now possibly finding love." I'm surprised that I haven't put that on a t-shirt yet, because at this point, I'm probably just going to be recognized as that. In addition, pretty much. In addition, I just launched a brand new podcast that I am calling Autistically Unapologetic with me, Devin Morrissey. And this podcast was really started as a new beginning for me. I have been blogging for the past 6 years, and I'm still going to continue to blog, but I really wanted to take on a new challenge of having my own podcast after doing several other podcasts in recent months, doing a lot of other motivational and public speaking gigs with the Love on the Spectrum cast. And I just thought, you know what, I want to actually sit down and have meaningful conversations with other autistic people like I'm doing right now. Really kind of bond over experiences and also talk about things that autistic people find really relatable. So that's pretty much a little bit about my life story, or who I am as a person. I was diagnosed at the age of 3, and I got to be honest, it was an interesting time being diagnosed that early. Particularly, I was born in 93, and basically back in the 90s, autism was seen as a death sentence. If you have autism, you're basically set up to fail for life. And that was not the attitude or the perception of my parents. My dad is a scientist. My mom gave up her job to raise me and my little sister at home. And they basically said, "Okay, you see that now, you say that now, but just wait in 10, 20, 30 years and you basically just watch what happens. He's going to do something out of his life. A lot of therapies happened as a result. A lot of, things that were there to help me, occupational, speech, you name it. But I'll be honest, growing up was kind of difficult. I masked my entire childhood growing up. And I have to say, as a result of that, I really lost sight of who I was. And I didn't really know, like, okay, why am I having to miss all these extracurricular activities to go to speech? Why am I having to leave school early for occupational therapy? Like, it just wasn't adding up. And I was trying to figure that out for so long, and it just wasn't making any sense.
That's really hard too, because when you're trying to understand your identity and you like, how lucky are kids today that are going to be able to have these mentors or inspiring people that have um more likable, more like them, right? More likeness. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it was so hard. There wasn't. And like you said, I mean, you had your diagnosis and you were going through all of the things. I was undiagnosed and called a drama queen and all of the other,
That's the worst.
extra things that come with that. Yeah, and just being unseen and undervalued, and really feeling like, gosh, why can't I change the way I am?
Exactly.
So tricky.
It is. And I actually found out that I was autistic about, I want to say around 12 years old, before I headed off into middle school. And that is the time in your life when puberty begins to happen. You begin to, really kind of figure things out about yourself. And having to learn that you're never going to be this perfect person as a 12-year-old, that was extremely devastating. And I did not know if it was something that I did in my mother's womb or if I had done something to be punished for that. So I really hid being autistic for many, many years. I got to be honest, though, it really was because of that, I lost sight of who I was. And I'll be honest, my teenage years were extremely traumatizing. I basically grew up in an environment where being different wasn't really seen as being a good thing now. It was almost kind of like if you weren't blending in and you were sticking out like a sore thumb, it was going to come back to bite you in the butt. And as a result of that, you know, middle and high school were incredibly rough. And I'll be honest, to this day, I'm still surprised that I even made it out alive because, a lot of things happened. I ended up in the hospital. I ended up doing a lot of things to myself that were not healthy for me. And I was spiraling out of control as a result. And I only really opened up about this a few years ago, and now actually be able to talk about it on such a global scale. It's incredibly important. It really is, because it really shows like, hey, you're not alone. Other people before you have gone through this, and they can exactly relate to what you've been through.
And it's so important to have those mentors, mentees, and peers that are at your same level so that you can do those things. You can look forward to say, what am I going to have to look forward to? What am I, and that goes for all humans, like whether you're a child and you want to have someone to look up to, but you also need a peer to understand what you're going through. And then maybe you're a mentor for someone younger than you. Then you get into your older years and you can do that same tiered stepped ladder through your whole entire life and really have that ability. But when you don't know who you are and you're struggling to find out, and you're being punished for your communication style, whether that be, they're reading the behaviors instead of seeing the communication that you're trying to portray, then it really muddles things up. And it not only creates a hard time for yourself, but for your family, for your teachers, for everyone involved. But the most important thing you need to know for sure, and all the other people listening and parents and things, it's not your fault.
Absolutely. And that's something that I finally realized as I graduated high school and I moved out to Los Angeles to attend college, that, all things that went down out of my control. And I had to see things the hard way so that I could fight my way to happiness and actually really kind of start fresh, because I more than anything wanted to live. And even though I attempted to take my own life twice, I was really just like, okay, you know what? I want to put this behind me now. I want a fresh start. And moving to Los Angeles straight out of high school from the Bay Area was almost like a second chance in life that I never knew. And I made the most out of my second chance. I was like, hey, I'm autistic. I'm proud of it. I'm not going to change who I am. Like, I might not give the best eye contact. Yes, that my social skills might be a little bit off, but I'm very proud of that. And I'm not going to change who I am for nobody. And to have that sort of reaction and being able to do all the college things that everyone else does, it was just a huge, exciting time in my life.
Absolutely. How would you say the relationship with your sister has been as a sibling? I guess I should have prefaced if that was okay to talk about before I just sprung it on you. I was just thinking of sibling relationships and how they either grow or dissipate.
No, they actually grew. I think not just with my sister, but like with my family as well, and with my friends as well. People did not know that I was autistic for the longest amount of time. And people did honestly just thought that, oh, he's probably just going through a rough patch in his life. He thought that I did not want people to know that I was autistic other than my parents and my younger sister. And that was pretty much it. It was a lot of pressure though. And I, look back sometimes, I'm like, oh, I wish that, maybe said, hey, maybe they should have said, oh, Devin's just a little bit autistic, just let him, have that moment. But looking back at it now, I think I had to find things out for myself, or else I wouldn't have the life that I have now. And particularly, just with all the wonderful things that have been happening to me ever since, leaving home, my childhood home, moving down here to LA. I don't really think that it's okay for me to really tell my 15, 16-year-old self how to act. 'Cause I think that those are things that you learn through those mistakes. You learn from traumatic experiences, and you actually grow as a result from it. I wouldn't be in one of the happiest places in my life now if it weren't for those traumatizing times.
It's so true. And it's so hard as a parent to watch your child go through those times. But at the same time, you've got to realize that you got to where you are at now because you went through those experiences as well.
Absolutely.
You can guide and buffer and comfort and pad and put all the, whatever bumpers up, if you will, but you can't control the situation. You cannot control the outcome of the situation.
You really can't though. And in particularly, I know with my experience, I had to find things out the hard way. I had to see things hands-on in order to move forward from it. And it happens in everyday life, whether it's through work, whether it's through looking for love, whether it's through maintaining friendships, whether even it's through just having, let's say like a sensory overload. It happens, but being yourself over the bush about it is really not going to get you anywhere. And it's something that I learned as I moved out and began living life on my own, that I'm like, you know what? I'm allowed to make mistakes and still be able to persevere forward. Like, it's a beautiful feeling.
Absolutely. And, I hope that in my parenting journey, I'm letting my kids know that that is okay too, that mistakes are learning. They're not something to be punished or, anything like that.
No.
Like, we need to discuss it, talk about it. How did you feel? Like, I'm trying to really, and I have 3 kids, a 23-year-old, 13 and 11. So I've already raised an adult and I know all the mistakes I made. And bless her heart, she's not.
It's like mistake 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right? No.
We can keep going.
She's a beautiful person. She has all of her own unique gifts and things, and she's undiagnosed, but we know when we know. But at the same time, my youngest, I'm like, okay, things are going to be different this time. We're going to try things differently this time around. And I have, maturity and age and all of these things on my side and experience. And now I can guide this little human a little bit in a better direction that I know when you can do better. Right.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm doing. I am prefacing this child with self-love from the beginning.
Yes.
Who do you love the most? No, it's not grandma. It's not mommy. It's not daddy. It's you. You love yourself the most.
Exactly. It's not your friends. It's not, your love interest. It's you, and primarily you first. You got to love yourself first before you can love others. And that's the biggest lesson I think that I've learned throughout this entire journey of really self-accepting, realizing my self-worth and realizing that, you know what, I can roll with this now. Like I can actually go out there and do great things because I've learned to love myself as a result.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you're a really maybe like a hands-on learner because there's different types of learning. There's visual and audible and all different types of learning. It sounds like you're a real hands-on learner. Do you think if you would have had that knowledge when you were growing up that things could have been better, that you could have gotten better support systems or in school, supports and things if they could have taught you the way you learn better?
You know what? Honestly, no. And I think that the reason why is actually because like everything that I've learned in my life has gotten me to this point. And quite frankly, I really wouldn't change anything about it. I always like to just say that you shouldn't live with any regrets because regrets are the mistakes you can't learn from, or they're the lessons that you're not willing to correct. And I feel like every mistake or lesson that I've made, I've been able to learn from it and actually grow from it. So I don't look back with any shame or any guilt that I have because life is so short. And coming out of COVID and actually being an educator hands-on, you see what these kids on a regular basis, and then seeing autistic people go through on a regular basis as well. It opens your eyes to such a whole new prospect of life, really. And I really gained so much, even just from everything that I've learned, whether it was in school or whether it was in therapies, because you have to be appreciative for the things that you learn. And now, not everyone has that same experience that I have. I always make it very, very, very clear that every single autistic person, they have their own life experiences. They have their own way of dealing with therapies that they've gone through. And I think that everyone should be open and honest about that because that's how we continue to bond and that's how we continue to learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. And improve and get rid of what doesn't work and add what does work and really build on those things. It's so important. And it's so important that, we as autistics can bring this information to light for the public, for the emergency responders, the service providers, the education departments, all of these people who really just need these voices to be able to say, hey, let's support you. We don't want, we understand that this is hard for you too. Because I think a lot of the times, a lot of people depend so much on these providers or support systems that they don't understand the level of support that they also might need. And I love to be kind of an advocate's advocate, right? I don't think I'm the devil's advocate.
Oh,
I'm an advocate's advocate.
Advocate, and so forth.
That's right. So I think that's the way to be. And what a better way to provide a team of people to give you the best care than to involve them all and act like, not act, but treat them all as special as they are for the gifts they're bringing to a team.
Yes, absolutely. And that's something that I've really been talking a lot about, whether it's in my blog or whether it's in my podcast now, is that I have had a lot of people champion for my success since day one. Particularly with ADA, there's been this big topic now. And I actually was invited to speak my thoughts about it at a recent summit in Los Angeles with some of my fellow Love on the Spectrum cast members, such as Danny Bowman, who's one of my best friends, Sabode, and his sister. And I never went through the abuse that ABA is tend to have. I know that my parents, because my parents were never allowed, they'd be like, okay, next. If someone didn't work, they'd be like, all right, thank you, next, pretty much, like in the words of Ariana Grande. And they, at the time, it was all in home. And the way that my parents found the right therapist for me was that they actually went to the local community college. They have the job boards and back in the 90s, they do. And they just said like, hey, we're looking for someone to work with our 4, 5-year, 3-year-old autistic son. And, it was a lot at the time, but it really did help propel me to great new heights. And especially now, because when people look at me, they don't see autism. They just see a regular human being. But when I say I'm autistic, they're like, wait, you're what? And, it does pull off that reaction. Now, some people on the spectrum might find that offensive. And you know what? That's totally okay. But me, I'm just kind of like, I like to fool the public.
No, just kidding. Tricked you.
I like to fool the public eye. Exactly. But people always ask me like, oh, what are things that you should, what are things that you notice in autism that we should know? And I'm open and honest. I'm like a blank canvas. It's like, I don't want to hold anything back because I think that it's important that people know that autism is a wide range. It is not black or white. There are so many gray areas in it. And it's super important to keep in mind of that because so many opinions now are being talked about autism, and we're seeing it all over right now, especially when you look back to the 1980s. The first thing that you saw in the media with autism was Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. And now we're in this sort of amazing change of waves because we got an autistic doctor on The Good Doctor on ABC. We got a Sesame Street Muppet. I so wish I had that back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, we got Everything Is Okay on Freeform. We have Atypical, and we have Love on the Spectrum. And to see this type of momentum now that we're moving forward with autistic people, it's such an exciting time.
So couldn't agree more because there's so many people coming together, and I think that that's one amazing thing that the internet did was open up this space where people could find one another, and the perception of what and who an autistic person could be was just busted open, and
the door was broken down.
It was broken down. And my son, bless his beautiful heart, he's our little mathematician professor at 13. And so I say to him, TJ, like, how many autistics are there in the world? And he'll go and run off and he'll come back and he says 186 million autistics in the world.
Oh, you go, TJ.
Well, okay. And so then I'm like, all right, DJ, well, if there are like 1 in 36 in the US, like, and there's 186 million and 8 million people or 9 million in the world, then what's the world's ratio?
Oh my gosh.
The ratio in the world is 1 in 43. Right? And I of course, different countries are at different levels and everything. But to understand now that, and in my new event coming up, that was one of the taglines I used was 186 million autistics. Here are the stories of just 36.
Yes.
Like, this is just 36 stories. Like,
exactly.
Still all those.
There's so many more million stories out there. And
Yeah.
It's funny because, everything that we see now on the media, whether it's on TV or whether it's social media online, you only are seeing one story on the spectrum. It doesn't represent that every other journey is right or wrong.
Yep.
It's just an insight into one.
And it's great. I hope that we keep, exposing the awesomeness of everything that can be, just in stigmas and in all types of disabilities and abilities and all types of stories and cultures, like understanding one another as humans and kind of now understanding these, people that we like-minded that is like the best phrase in the world, right?
Like-minded's perfect.
It's perfect. And I wish I knew the doctor's name so I could actually give him credit for this. But I was listening to his podcast the other day, and he is like medical doctor, pediatrician, like 25 years medical school, this guy. Okay. Anyway.
All right. 25 years.
The thing that people don't understand is that everything about an autistic brain is everything about an autistic brain. It has different gray matter, different white matter, different patterns, different smooth parts, different rough parts, different wavelengths, different everything. And it's so, like, if they could just start with that, how much easier do you think parents and community, teachers, if they could just really understand that simple, complex point, right? That the brain is so very different, and we just need to really understand what works best for this type of brain, and let's move forward with that, or figure out how to build a new education system based on that information.
Absolutely. And I have a lot of amazing people in my life that actually ask me about, okay, how does autism work, this and that, for instance. So When I was on the show, Love on the Spectrum US, many people may or may not remember when Danny asked me, how was your dating life going? I said to Danny, quote unquote, myself a fourth date coming up, same girl. Now, flash forward to 2 years later, that was not the last date that I had with that girl. And I'm happy to say that she is now my girlfriend, and we have now been together for the past 2 years. Actually, today is the day 2 years ago they actually asked her if she wanted to be my girlfriend. And
Oh, happy
it's
girlfriend anniversary.
yes, thank you. I know. Well, Andrea. Well, her name is Andrea. She's like the best thing that's ever happened to me. Period. She's not autistic, which is the twist to it, and it's interesting because people are like, "Wait, autistic and non-autistic people can date?" I'm like, of course. I mean, have you not seen Amy Schumer and her husband? I mean, come on, the world is round. But it's interesting just because like she said to me that she didn't even know that I was autistic until she actually saw my blog. And I'll be honest, I was very, very scared of telling her because, you never want like this has been my first relationship, and I never ever want to come off as like, oh my God, is this going to be too much to handle for me? Is he going to be too much? And then actually being like, oh well, I don't know much about autism, but I think you've always been a great guy. I'm just like, whew, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And she has been amazing. She's been super supportive of everything that I've done, whether it's with this podcast or whether it's with Love on the Spectrum US and how much that's blown up. She is the inspiration that keeps me going every day. And so she really has taken the time to better understand what autism actually is. And by being around other cast members from the show, it's really opened up her eyes to many other things. And it's been incredible. Just like how I have my eyes opened up to her culture and the other things that she does in her life, it's the same for me as well. And so, we make each other better at the end of the day. And I think that that's the best type of love that you can give to anybody. It's unconditional love. And I didn't know what love was like until I met her, and now I do. And so
I love that. That's my favorite. In 4 days, it will be my husband and I's 14 married anniversary. 14
Yay!
years married.
Congratulations.
19 years together.
Hey.
I know, right?
Living proof that autistic people can find love, ladies and gentlemen. Living proof.
Absolutely fabulous. We've done, bless his heart. He how do I even put this? I did a podcast where he gave me the answers to the questions she asked. He wouldn't come on, but we still did like a podcast talking about marriage on the spectrum. And it's so amazing. And, for him and I, we started off as friends, and then he stopped dating a girl, and we just kept hanging out. And then all of a sudden I was like, do I like this person? And we had spilled all the beans about all the things and opened all the closets. Skeletons were everywhere. So we had nothing to hide from one another. There was nothing that we hadn't already expressed to each other as friends. And it made it so much easier. And I just remember the spark from like our first kiss. I was just thinking of that.
Oh my God. I know. My first kiss with Andrea, I saw fireworks. It was just like, I literally, and this was at my grad party as well, because I had just finished my master's degree from the University of Southern California. So spot on all my fellow Trojans out there. And it was for the first time that I had literally felt something different that I never felt before. And I'm like, I think I really like this girl. In fact, I actually think I love this girl.
She's the one.
Yeah, she really is the one. I was like, I don't need to see any other girls at this point or I don't even need to look on any dating apps anymore. In fact, like I deleted my dating app maybe the third date that we had. So I was just like, because I was telling Danny that I really, really, really like this girl. That I really like Andrea, and I really want this to work out more than anything. And that's something that the show didn't show, because obviously this was about Danny's journey, but really, I was on the same position as her, but I wanted to sort of find love outside of the cameras. Cause it's very, because when we shot the show, it was a little bit nerve-wracking at first because obviously, you have cameras and lights on you, you have the producers there, and you're just kind of like, okay, well, this is going to be fun because
I'll act
we were
normal.
originally, because we were bringing the show into the United States from the success that the original Australian version had. And I was just kind of like, and then when the show premiered, I'm like, oh my God, what did I say about my girlfriend? Please let it be good. Because if I don't say anything good about Andrea, she is not going to let me hear this down. And we watched the episode together. And first and foremost, it was shocking to see myself on the show, let alone the trailer. Just because obviously I only had it like maybe a few minutes on there. But I was just like, oh, I guess they really like me. I guess they want to put me in after all. Okay. And oh God, just seeing Andrea's reaction when so she just, we both got really emotional, and that just shows us how much like our love is still going strong
Absolutely.
2 years later. And I'm hoping that any autistic person that hasn't, had that opportunity to find love, don't throw in the towel. You never know when the right person is going to come into your life and when things click. Because Andrea and I clicked almost right away, just like you and your husband did. It just, things work out for a reason. So don't give up that hope yet.
I love
Keep
that.
going.
My 13-year-old, he really he's still cognitively struggles. He's brilliant, but there's such a wide range of things, that challenges or support needs or whatever you want to call them, that can happen, right? Obstacles. I don't know. Somebody said, I don't like challenges. I like obstacles, but I don't know if you like an obstacle. Sometimes you can get over things, but sometimes you really can't. And you shouldn't be blamed for that. But he loves love. And he really, and I hope it's because of our relationship and how loving we are. But right now he's 13. And for some of the things that he's going through, I'm like, hey, buddy, do you want a girlfriend someday? Then let's try not to say those kinds of things. Or, when we do have a girlfriend, we're not going to be able to hit them every time, like, your phone dies or something. Like, I'm trying to preface those conversations with him around something he has a desire for in the future. So that it has an actual effect, and it really, he thinks about like, okay, this is something I really do want. So, I mean, I hope it, I hope it helps.
Yeah, you really hope that it helps. And, I think that some things that I have heard that like actually help is like when you show like images or videos of like how love doesn't go versus how you actually should have love go. And I think that it's a very important idea, because I think that sometimes like when we see things, sometimes we can sometimes mimic and think, oh, is that the right way to do it? But then you realize, oh no, it's the exact, don't ever do that again. So having sort of like that, definitely do this. And then that, okay, maybe you should never, ever, ever do this. I think really having that stigma or having those examples is so important, so that it actually gives, sort of kind of, okay, well, what's appropriate and what's sort of the exact opposite of
it. What is the absolute nothing? Don't ever do this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes those are best ways to learn, is to just know the things not to do.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially when you're talking about the little ones. But what are you going to be doing in the future? What does your future look like? What do we have going on Devin's calendar?
Well, as of right now, the podcast, I am currently in the building stages of that. I actually just shot an episode with a very good friend of mine that I'm sure that Danny Bowman, last night. We shot episode 2, which I sort of like asked her all about, like her journey to find love, what she's been up to since the show. I am still running the blog. That is going incredibly well. I've done quite a bit of public and motivational speaking, these past few months. I just turned 30. So, 30s have, well, thank you. I mean, 30 has been kind of a big year for me so far, but I've really learned a lot as a result. I feel like every year you gain so much more insight and so much more knowledge into that. In terms of what is about to happen in the future, I guess people are just going to have to wait and see and find out for themselves, because I'm the type of person that just loves to sort of surprise people in terms of what I'm doing next. Because sometimes you never know what you're going to have planned. Like, let's say 5 to 6 months down the road, sometimes something comes up, let's say within a few days, and you roll with it. You roll with what the tides are taking you in. And so I always that the best is yet to come, and it definitely is.
I love it. And tell us the name of your blog so we can go and follow you.
Yes. So my blog's name is called Autistic Superpower. And it's basically about, I share a lot of life journeys. I share a lot about different things that I've done, like learning how to speak through music. Growing up, that was actually the first way that I communicated. I also am about to launch a brand new podcast called Autistically Unapologetic. That is now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. My main Instagram is Devin Morrissey. If you see a familiar photo of me holding a drink in my profile picture from the show, you basically know that's me. And I'm also sort of relaunching a YouTube channel with some of my public speaking gigs, as well as episodes as well from the podcast. So I'm very, very, very excited to see what the future has to hold with all of these things.
Well, I'm just so glad and honored that we got to make this connection today. And I really hope we can stay in touch and follow each other's journeys. And, next time around for the third annual virtual autism summit, you have a invitation already aboard. So
thank you so much.
Next year you're on board. Whatever the numbers are next year, we'll go with a new name. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been so fun to talk to you today and get to know you more. And I look forward to following your blog and your podcast. And it's just such an amazing journey to be on. So thanks for being here today so much.
Thank you so much for having me a part of this podcast. I had such an amazing time, and I look forward to seeing how things go with this virtual summit that you're about to have. I know it's going to be amazing.
Oh, it's so exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. And even if this episode airs after the summit, I will fill you all in, listeners, and let you know all of this.
Oh, yes.
So. Oh, thank you so much again, Devin. And I really look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you as well.